My name is Brian Moore, and I'm in the School of Music, faculty member there in two areas, music education and also in music technology. I've spent quite a bit of the last couple semesters with a focus on the use of the iPad in classroom, both for teaching and learning and also from a curricular development standpoint. So every student in this, about 24 students in the class, had an iPad to use for the semester. And we used an application, GarageBand, which costs about $5, but enables a student with very little technical skill to be able to create music from scratch and to compose. Conversation ensued about, well, if we were to make a really bad piece, how would we do that? How would we repeat things so often that it wouldn't have any interest? And that was one of the exercises that we did. Then we turned it around. Well, what would make a really interesting piece? What is it in the creative process that allows people to say, gee, I enjoy that piece of music? Well, the iPad as a piece of technology is well suited for that because we can try a lot of things out. They can quickly manipulate sounds, put things in a different order, layer sound on sound, play things back, and that's a real plus. One of the techniques I like to use for a person who's learning to compose is make believe you're hearing your piece for the very first time. As you're working with a piece as a composer, you may be, or any kind of creative work, you're with it so long it's sometimes hard to experience it for the first time. Well, with the iPad, they can kind of put it aside, hit the play button, they kind of experience what that is like, for the first time. We also use the collaborative aspects of the iPad. We use the space that in Architectural Hall as a classroom. We could display their iPad instruments up on the big screen. People could listen to pieces, visually see how the piece was put together, make comments, make suggestions. So we're able to do some group work and some collaboration work that way as it was all put together. When a student has finished their composition, one of the ways that they share it is we can take on the iPad, they can create either a GarageBand version of the file, or what we typically did in class, they could create an MPEG-4 version, an audio version, that if you wanted to make a CD, of course none of the students make CDs anymore, but you can take that file and share it. And one of the design aspects, if you will, for the entire project was this piece has to be realized so that it can be enjoyed on an iPad. And we did spend a little time in terms of the way people listen to music nowadays. Most of the time, someone's best musical listening might be in their car, which might have their best stereo, or on headphones. And we don't want to minimize live music. That's a really important part. We encourage them to go to live performances, but a lot of them are going to be listening to music casually through headsets or through a stereo system. So because of that, we said, well, look, you're going to listen to this on headphones. Let's worry about issues of panning, how much is in the left speaker, right speaker, some of those different music production pieces that are an important part that make the piece sound more interesting. So they would share their pieces back and forth, and it was a pretty successful way of sharing the music and of having them have something that they could, have others enjoy as well as themselves. One of the interesting aspects of using technology is that there's a place of using it because you want to improve the teaching learning process. There's also an aspect of wanting to use it because it's what students come to campus expecting. But I'm also very cognizant of not wanting to do it just because we can do it and just because it's quote unquote cool. There needs to be a real instructional reason behind it. Coupled with that, there's always the issue of, what are some of the logistic problems that we have as a faculty member trying to implement that. Probably the biggest difficulty I experienced, and we're still working on this, is how to get content from the students back to me as the professor. So students this semester actually made movies on their iPads. They, as I mentioned, they composed full-blown pieces, created artwork. Well, these are all artifacts that need to be shared and turned in. So we're still working through the logistics of how that comes back. How do I provide feedback to the students? And it's just kind of a learning process to see how we're going to accomplish that in the future.